You guys see this? An Arctic blast is about to slam the country, and it could make Monday the coldest inauguration ceremony in 40 years. I'm serious. There's a real chance Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg's lips could all freeze to Trump's butt. That is true. That might happen. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes, that's they're almost getting back to normal. The Trump hatred is returning. And I'm sorry, whose lips are currently frozen to Joe Biden's shriveled butt? Well, the FBI director, that's Christopher Wray. That's one example. Every network news anchor, every wanker in the White House briefing room posing as a journalist. Not journalists at all. Well, a very good Friday to all of you. And it is Joe Biden's last Friday as President of the United States. That makes it a good Friday indeed. On Monday, he's got a half day on Monday. And as my friend Steve pointed out this morning, really every day is a half day for Joe Biden, am I? Am I right about that? Of course I'm right about that. Don't be silly. It's a rhetorical question. Every day a half day. You know, he's an 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. or 4 p.m. guys. Not exactly a hardworking person. Which reminded me that the Democrat Hill staffers on Capitol Hill, that's what they call them, Hill staffers. They work on Capitol Hill, and they're staffers, and so we call them Hill staffers, shorthand for everything. And the Hill staff, progressive, they have an association. And they're dedicated to working less and spreading monkeypox, two major causes that they have. But the Hill staffers are the Progressive Hill Staffer Association. They're calling for a 32-hour work week. 32-hour work week. This is like the Biden effect. You know, the Trump effect is Hamas is terrified, and they want to give up their hostages. Theoretically, at least, they are lying murderers. So you can't believe anything they say until it's done and in the rearview mirror. Don't believe anything that's coming from them. But that's true of the Biden administration and the Democrat Party, too. Yeah, and these left-wingers, progressive Hill staffers, ask for shorter work week. They want a shorter work week. And they're actually saying that if they work less, they will be more productive. They'll be more productive. Forget that 40-hour or 50-hour work week. So many of us work 60-hour work weeks all over the place and more. But the Progressive Hill Staff group, they have a group. It's an association. Not a bright bunch, not a serious bunch, not an honorable or respectable bunch, and a lot of gender dysphoria going on. And, of course, monkeypox, which I think they've got a drug for that now, don't they? Doesn't Big Pharma have something to clear your monkeypox right up, Michael? Why am I asking Michael? Why would he know? I don't know. As the second Donald Trump presidential term dawns, some progressive Capitol Hill staffers are floating a bold new proposal, See, that's where it begins. They love their colons. Working less. The Congressional Progressive Staff Association proposed establishing a rotating 32-hour work week on the Hill. They sent a letter out to the leaders of the House and the Senate yesterday, and they say that reducing the number of hours they work, you see, will actually make them more productive. More productive if they work less. This is the government. It's Washington, you know. And if they show up for fewer hours, they'll get more done, which as a mathematical equation might lead one to believe that if they didn't work at all, that would really maximize their production, because their argument is the less I'm there, the more productive I am. Therefore, you're fired. Just stay home. That will maximize your productivity. So thanks for that, the Democrats. Remarkable stuff. But that's not the biggest thing. We got a lot of big things going on. There are a couple of confirmation hearings yesterday. The Secretary of the Department of Treasury, Bessent, and he was quite good yesterday, I've got to say, even though he was a money manager for George Soros. He apparently is good at managing money, because Soros is really, really rich and evil. Also, he's the evil George Soros, multi-billionaire, all that stuff, crazy stuff. And also Variety magazine, Trump names Sylvester Stallone, Mel Gibson, and John Voight as special ambassadors to troubled Hollywood. Ambassadors to Hollywood. Hollywood is a foreign country filled with aliens from other galaxies, so it's probably a good idea to have ambassadors, and why not Sylvester Stallone and Mel Gibson and John Voight? Sylvester Stallone and Mel Gibson can parachute in and swing across the stage on ropes and have some fun with it all as ambassadors. Quite remarkable. And the news media. The news media is having some issues. You see, they're moving Wolf Blitzer. Wolf Blitzer is, can you believe that? I mean, he's the immovable Wolf Blitzer at CNN. He's Mount Rushmore. But they also, and I'll get to that, but they also, listen to this now, CNN reportedly considering exiling Jim Acosta. Remember, he was a fake White House correspondent for CNN during the first go-round with President Trump. And these guys, can I just say, these guys, remarkable stuff. He was a yeller, and he should have been banned from journalism and Washington and maybe the United States of America. His real name is Abilio, but he's ashamed of his heritage. So CNN reportedly considering exiling Jim Acosta's show to midnight. They're going to put him on at midnight, Eastern time. On the West Coast, that's not so bad, though. That's only 9 o'clock, if I'm doing my gazintas correctly. And CNN reportedly considering exiling Jim Acosta's show to midnight. And listen to this, the rest of the headline from the left-wingers at Mediaite. To throw a bone to Trump. They want to throw a bone to Trump. I don't believe that is true, not for a moment. I don't think they want to throw a bone to Trump at all. So it must be something else and not that. But we've got that going for us. It would be funny if CNN moved his show to midnight because he's such what is he? Well, we can't really say it here. We'll just say rectal aperture. I think that might suffice. And CNN to shift Wolf Blitzer to mornings in massive shakeup at embattled network. It's an embattled network. The network is embattled. They're embattled. They're in a battle with ratings. The fight to get to the bottom of the ratings totem pole. Can you say totem pole, or will Democrats disapprove of that? Because we've got that going too. Yeah, CNN to shift Wolf Blitzer to mornings and massive shakeup embattled network. Colon. They love their colons. Report. You should never have one word after the colon. I think that's a bit much. So ratings-challenged CNN will reportedly move veteran anchor Wolf Blitzer to a new slot in the mornings as part of a wider reshuffle by the embattled cable news pioneer, according to their boss there, Mark Thompson. Wolf Blitzer is 76 years old. He's 76 years old. He looks good. He's a lot sharper than, let's say, Joe Biden, for example. In fact, he's a lot sharper than Kamala Harris, who is not 76 years old, but never mind that. One of the network's longest tenured anchors and current host of The Situation Room. That's a government reference. That's a room in the White House where they talk about secret stuff. And very inside baseball, very inside Washington, because it's all a great big circle fest in a hot tub. It's the Democrat Party. So we certainly wish everybody the best, except for Jim Acosta, as you might imagine. Remarkable stuff. And elite Democrats stunned. I got to tell you, it's amazing stuff. We've got the Democrats. Actually, this is the New York Post story. I like this New York Post story. That's a fun story. Elite Democrats shunned democracy throughout Biden's term. They shunned democracy. For how long have I been saying now, Michael? The Democratic Party isn't, right? Friendly fire isn't. Common sense isn't. And the Democratic Party isn't. They in case there are Democrats listening, they isn't democratic anymore. See what I'm saying? It's a little hard for them to comprehend these things. It's a concept that they're not usually capable of grasping. Yeah, but the elite Democrats shunned democracy throughout Biden's term, and now they're paying the price. That's the headline at the New York Post. Wonderful stuff. And here's the left-wingers at Mediaite. They all sleep together, the White House and the media and stuff. Democrats, you know how they are. Monkeypox. They are the party of monkeypox. They spread it like wildfire in California, don't they? I think from now on, the turn of phrase is not just it spreads like wildfire. You have to say in Los Angeles or under Karen Bass, under Gavin Newsom. It spreads like wildfire under Gavin Newsom. Things like that. But Mediaite, Biden White House feels, quote, like a morgue, end quote, ahead of Trump inauguration. I'm remembering when George W. Bush was elected and the Democrats wanted to defeat him so they could steal everything. But you remember the Democrats in the Clinton White House, they removed all the W's from all the typewriters and the computer keyboards, and they removed all the W's because they have the brains of infants. They have the brains of children. I wonder where those nitwits are today. Probably in corporate America, implementing DEI policies. Oh, by the way, another Democrat mayor, she was the mayor, I believe, arrested in California, and I've got that for you. But that's not as good as the Washington Post cartoonist. Well, it's not good, but it's a relevant story. A Washington Post political cartoonist arrested and charged yesterday and in jail on $1 million bond, for what? What is the charge, Michael? It's another Democrat child porn, more child porn from yet another Democrat. And this guy, the cartoonist, a Pulitzer Prize-winning political cartoonist, Washington Post and beyond, is a huge, frothy, anti-Trump Republican hater. And he hates, it's what he does. That's why they pay him big money, because the Democrat hate machine is everywhere. And they're infested with child molesting, child porn, people all over the place. They're like the Democrat mayor of College Park, Maryland, who was a frequent visitor to the Biden White House and a pal of Pete Buttigieg. And I believe he's in prison for the next 50 years or so for his many all-gay child porn collection, his child porn collection. So here's famed cartoonist. I love this. NBC Bay Area wants to make it a local. They want to localize the story. So famed cartoonist with Bay Area ties arrested on child porn charges. See, that's a good way in the headline of bringing it to the local readership and viewership there. Hey, it's not just a nothing story out of Washington. This guy's got Bay Area ties. He's got Bay Area ties. Yeah, he does. He's got some Bay Area ties going on in prison right now, too, where he may be for a long, long time. And another headline, this is the better one from The Blaze. Wonderful. Trump-hating Washington Post Pulitzer Prize-winning cartoonist who mocked Republicans as groomers arrested on child porn charges. Well, he mocked Republicans as groomers, and now he's in prison for multiple child porn charges. Well, of course he is. Democrats. Whatever you do, don't let him near the kids. And for God's sake, don't let him play duck, duck, goose. The game is not what it used to be. Remarkable things. So we got that. And speaking of the Washington Post, this was laugh out loud funny, too. The Hill in Washington with the headline, The Washington Post rolls out new mission statement. They have a new mission statement. And the New York Times has the same story. To reach, quote, all of America. Wow. Why didn't I think of that? I guess your marketing department has been in jail for child porn, too, because isn't that the whole idea of being a newspaper? You just want to be a local paper in Washington, nothing more than that. To reach all of America. Wow. Huh. Maybe General Motors should think about that, and Levi's jeans, and what nitwits these people are. Just extraordinary stuff. Joe Biden did something of an interview yesterday with the socialist, Lawrence O'Donnell at MSNBC. He's a proud socialist, and he's unabashed about it, unashamed. And that's why the communists at the Joe Biden, feckless boy, White House, with his last Friday as president today, Joe Biden, that's why they said, hey, let's sit down with Lawrence O'Donnell. He's a communist, and we hate America and freedom and free speech and capitalism. So let's do that. And they did a sit-down like the mafia with the Bolshevik, socialist, anti-capitalist. Of course, they pay him millions of dollars. It's always easier to be a socialist when you're an American and you've got millions and millions in the bank. Then socialism is like, hey, man, I'm a socialist. Cool. Don't bogart that joint, my friend. Amazing stuff. Great stuff. Wah, wah, wah. Oh, and this is a fun idea. In Maryland, a local news story, Charles County government workers will get the Monday after the Super Bowl off. The Monday after the Super Bowl, they're going to get the day off. I saw this yesterday, and I laughed just for a second, and I said, that might become a national trend. That might become very, very popular. Charles County might have started something there. We got Al Charlatan in the news and crazy left-wingers because, the inauguration's coming up. So the violent, criminally insane, gender dysphoric, racist Democrats are, of course, arranging for a lot of protest. And the Reverend Al Charlatan isn't going to miss out on an opportunity to shake down, anyone. We're at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. I have a bevy of ridiculous Democrat moments to share with you today. The hours are ticking away on this Democrat administration, this catastrophic administration. War, mayhem, gangs, murder, self-immolation. The left is here. They're not liberals. They're not even Democrats. They're the left. Let's go to the telephones, Michael. Let's go to Brian calling from Front Royal, Virginia. Brian, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for taking my call.
You betcha.
I just wanted to bring up the idea that perhaps the Biden administration is attempting to undermine a smooth transition of power as President Trump comes in next week with this supposed peace deal in the Middle East, which I believe is a booby trap. Don't be a booby and fall for the trap of Biden undermining this. It's designed to blow up in just a couple of weeks so that the mainstream media can say, oh, Biden had a great peace plan and Trump blew it. They need to do it on their own after Monday so that they can have true peace plan and totally annihilate and destroy Hamas. The only way to have peace is through victory, peace through strength and victory.
I like the way you think. I've got to say, I think you're 100% right. I think that the Biden people are undermining at every turn. Joe Biden is trying to pull the rug out in all kinds of ways as the transition takes place. And this time it's kind of interesting because for years now, every time you use the word transition, you're talking about gender. You're talking about Democrats and gender. But I believe you're right. I honestly do, Brian, that they're looking to booby trap, to sabotage, to undermine. And they like war. They're the left. All right, now, Saturday and Sunday don't count, so today is Joe Biden's last full work day, and for him a work day is not really a work day, is it? It's like the progressive Hill staffers on Capitol Hill that want to work a 32-hour work week. I guess they're following Joe Biden's lead. He starts his work day at about 11 a.m. after an episode of Hazel and a bowl of porridge, and then he loves that Shirley Booth, and then he works until 3 o'clock or so, and then they cut him off completely. Amazing stuff. But today is his last weekday, his last full, in theory, work day, and a half day on Monday, which is honestly what he works Monday through Friday, a half day. Not a bright man, not a hard-working man. And the Reverend Al Charlatan is coming to Washington. So that's good news for everybody. What could go wrong there? Before we move on, I see there's another call I'd like to go to. We remain at 888-630-9625. Joe Biden's last full work week. I don't think he's going to take a corporate job after this. Do you? Barack Obama, he went off and made tens and tens of millions of dollars, probably $100 million for doing nothing. Because don't you know who he is? and he can slow the rise of the oceans and heal the planet. He didn't do any of that, but he says that he can, if he chose to. So apparently he's chosen not to. It's good to be a leftist, radical extremist, mentored by a communist named Frank Marshall Davis. Kind of like his pick for CIA director, John Penitentiary Face Brennan, who voted for the Communist Party candidate for president of the United States, Gus Hall, and bragged about it for years and years. But that aside, let's go to the telephones. Let's go because Joe Biden and his legacy. He's going to have a legacy. And let's go to Heck calling from Bethesda, Maryland. Heck, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Good morning once again, Chris. Thank you for taking my call. We only have a few hours left, so is Joe going to announce that he has a cure for cancer before the end of the day?
That is a great question. Why would you ask that question, Heck?
Well, I think that was a campaign promise of his. I'm not sure.
It was. You're absolutely right.
But while I was on hold, I got to thinking now. You remember back on the TV show Dallas when, was it Bobby?
Bobby Ewing.
When Bobby Ewing died, but then he came back and it was all a dream. So do you think Jill's going to open the shower curtain on Monday and Donald Trump's going to be standing there?
Well, there are all kinds of disturbing images there, I've got to say. I don't...
Sure. Okay. But one last thing. I know it's Friday. We're going into a long weekend. We're changing administrations. But I think you should have your last hour of people calling in to what should be the last question posed to White House spokesperson Karine Jean-Pierre.
Oh, that's a fun idea, too. Boy, what the last question?
My question, the last, what you say that Joe and Jill are proud of Hunter? What are they most proud of? That he got kicked out of the Navy? That he took his daughter's college funds and spent them on blowing hookers? That,
impregnated the stripper and denied paternity, and they still don't hang the stocking.
His dead brother's widow, and got her on crack, and did her sister too. I mean, those are some significant achievements there.
That is, you make some good points here. That is fun stuff, Heck. Yeah, because they're very proud. He's the most intelligent person that Joe Biden knows. He said. But
truth be told, Joe doesn't know a lot of people, so. Not that it could be true.
Not that he can recall. And since you mentioned the cancer moonshot, Joe Biden did promise. In fact, I think Michael Piercy has been busy typing away, pulling up the stand by for just a sec, because this was a Joe Biden promise.
I promise you, if I'm elected president, you're going to see the single most important thing that changes America is we're going to cure cancer.
So how's he done on that, Heck?
Well, the only moonshot I recall is the video of Hunter walking around with his butt hanging out. So
that's fair also. Yeah, and I went to whitehouse.gov, the President and First Lady's cancer moonshot, because she's a doctor, so they put her in there.
She's a hell of a doctor.
And a hell of a doctor. She should be the Surgeon General. The President and First Lady's cancer moonshot, ending cancer as we know it. As we know it. Well, that's kind of a strange turn of phrase.
They could redefine cancer like they did with recession. So
right, good point. And inflation and so many other things. All right, Heck, thank you.
I took a lot of your time there, but I think that, your last hour, what's the last question for Karine? So there you go. That fills up your last hour for the weekend.
Good questions. Heck from Bethesda, Maryland. Thank you very much. And honestly, it's true. If today is Cringe's last ordinary press conference before she takes a job with ABC News or whoever she takes it with, Satan's Army, maybe the after-school Satan Club. She could become the head of the after-school Satan Club. It'd be fun to see what the last question is, and there should be questions about these things. Yeah, Hunter Biden, and Hack is right. Hunter Biden was dating, I'm making quotation marks with my fingers, his brother Beau's widow. Beau tragically passed away. He was the good brother. And then Hunter moved in, and he got her hooked on crack. And then he dated, I'm making quotation marks with my fingers again, her sister. So he dated, I think you see what's happening here, the widow and then the widow's sister, because They're always keeping it classy. Keep it classy, San Diego. Isn't it amazing? But the White House document, whitehouse.gov, the president and first lady reignited the Biden cancer moonshot to mobilize the national effort. It's a national effort to end cancer as we know it. You're going to make it into something that we don't know? That's kind of weird. Wouldn't you just say to end cancer, to cure cancer? Why would you add as we know it? That's, it's the end of the world as we know it.
If you could do anything at all, Joe, what would you do? I said I'd cure cancer. They looked at me like, why cancer? Because no one thinks we can. That's why, and we can.
That's not true.
We end cancer as we know it.
As we know it. See, there it is. That's good. We're building a world where the word cancer loses its power. A diagnosis isn't a death sentence. I don't know if these guys have been paying attention for the last 50 years, but we in the United States have been making great headway on that, and to the betterment of all of humanity, as is so often the case with the United States and the patriarchy and big pharma and all the things that we do here in the United States to make the world a better place. But Joe Biden promised, and he used the word promise, that going to cure cancer and end cancer. And just another falsehood, just another failure. Amazing stuff. Oh, Michael Piercy is moving a microphone close to his face.
I just want to point out, Joe mentioned this in his farewell address the night before last in a very offhanded way, if I may.
Sure, Joe Biden, night before last, in his farewell address. It was, the news media said it was the equivalent of Eisenhower's military-industrial complex. Beware the military-industrial complex. Joe Biden is the military-industrial complex that Ike warned us we should beware of. Joe Biden, night before last.
Artificial intelligence even has the potential to help us answer my call to end cancer as we know it.
But
unless safeguards are in place, AI could spawn new threats to our rights.
What new threat? But I thought it was just Republicans that were a threat to you guys. Can I just say, what's the matter you? You got no respect. Shut up your face. Amazing stuff. That's Joe Biden, and he's on his way out. And that's a good thing because so many of us voted against him, and that's wonderful. All right, let's go to because Joe Biden, again, did an interview with, who did he do the interview with? Oh, Lawrence O'Donnell at MSDNC, where radical left-wing extremists and anti-American, anti-capitalist, communist hacks are paid millions of dollars by NBC, the news division of NBC, the network TV. And, hey, let's put some communists out there, pay them millions of dollars, and have them spread the communist message so, soon all life on Earth will be extinguished because it seems to be their ultimate goal. Nobody kills like the left. Forget about the Islamists and the terrorists. They're pikers compared to the left. They genuinely and honestly are. If you noticed anything about the last century. So I want to, before we start, because he's doing this interview with Lawrence O'Donnell at MSDNC, just to establish Lawrence O'Donnell's credentials.
Unlike you, I am not a progressive. I am not a liberal who's so afraid of the word that I had to change my name to progressive.
I'm not either.
Liberals amuse me. I am a socialist. I live to the extreme left.
Great.
The extreme left of you mere liberals, okay?
Yeah. Well, so you want to join the club of killers, the killers of the 20th century, most prolific mass murderers in the history of humankind, the socialist revolution. Bernie Sanders, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, let's face it, the Democrat Party. They're here to destroy the world. If you can destroy America, you'll destroy the world. We saved the world in the 20th century again and again from absolute tyranny, global tyranny. Had we not been there and intervened after Pearl Harbor, gone to Europe and all that, the entire planet Earth would be a slave ship divided up by the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics under Joseph Stalin. And then the Maoists came along, and everybody would just be getting whipped at the rock quarry today everywhere in the world, were it not for the United States. The Democrat Party represents that movement of the 20th century. Many of them are not intelligent enough or well-informed enough to realize or recognize who they are and what they're doing. But never mind that. Here is another discussion for another day. But the commies are here. And remember, the Democratic Party isn't. They are Bolsheviks. They're not liberals. They're leftists. All right, and here's Joe Biden with Lawrence O'Donnell, the socialist, the Bolshevik, and they love it. They love it. And again, he makes a 7-figure salary year after year. That makes it easier to be a socialist. I'm really generous with other people's money. Let's take your money this time. Here is President Biden with the socialist, Lawrence O'Donnell, last night.
I really am concerned about how fragile democracy is. That sounds corny, but I mean, I really am concerned because you've heard me say it 100 times. I really think we're at an inflection point in history here.
It's a big word.
We're unrelated to any particular leader. Things are going to change drastically.
That happens a lot. I don't know if, you've lived enough of our history. Let's keep in mind, Joe Biden has lived a lot of our history. In fact, Joe Biden's date of birth, the day on which Joe Biden was born, was closer to the inauguration of Abraham Lincoln than it was to his own inauguration. That is a true fact. That is an actual truth. I bet Joe Biden doesn't even know that because his brain, she's a no good. She's a broke. So he's concerned democracy is fragile. Well, it survived you for 4 years and Kamala Harris, and looks like we might get this proposition back on track. I'm hopeful. But there are no guarantees in life, as we know. Remarkable stuff. He's concerned about how fragile democracy is because we're at an inflection point. I wonder who taught him that word yesterday. That's kind of a big word. That's remarkable stuff. Joe Biden. And we got Vladimir Putin. Remember when they lied to us about all that Russian collusion stuff? Whatever happened to that? Where's our filthy news media when it comes to the years of Russian collusion and, your inflection point is blah, blah, blah. And we got Xi Jinping, Ricochet Rabbit over in communist China, taking over the world in Latin America and in Africa. A lot of slave labor, child slave labor to mine rare earth elements so they can make batteries for your Tesla and your iPhone. Their little tiny fingers being worked to nubs. And then they take the rare earth elements that they're using slave labor, child labor in Africa to mine, sending it to China, where child labor, they put together your iPhone for Apple, Tim Cook and Democrats and all that stuff. So here's Joe Biden. He's really concerned about where the world is headed.
There's so damn many bullies around.
Islamists?
And I now extrapolate that all the way to democracy.
You fund them.
The reason for all the safeguards out there is, in a very trite way to say it, keep the bullies from taking advantage of everybody else.
Bullies.
They're basic guardrails.
Yeah. Do we call like Stalin and Hitler and Mao bullies now? Is that the Ayatollahs are bullies? We use this like a playground, schoolyard language to describe the tyrants of the world. We're not children here. Well, he's got the brain of a child, and so do the vast majority of his voters, for that matter. I always tap the bully guardrails. This language is the language of an idiot, of course, and appropriately so, Joe Biden.
So I guess what I'm worried about is that the thing that keeps it on track are the guardrails.
Dr. Jill?
There's a Supreme Court that's independent.
There is?
But
you're trying to pack
but
it.
accountable.
Oh.
There's a Congress that you speak your mind, but you're held accountable to basic standards. There's a presidency that says you have really limited powers. I mean, you're the top dog, but you can't dictate everything. And I don't know, we just seem to be chipping away.
Yeah, you
all
are.
Those elements.
Yeah, the left is. And the Supreme Court, which he wants to pack. He wants to add, what do they want to add, like 6 Democrat left-wing radical extremists to the Supreme Court to pack them because they have the sensibilities of Joseph Stalin and the KGB, La Ventre Beria. The Supreme Court is independent but not accountable. No, well, I got it. You should be thrown in prison, I think, just for saying that. because that's misinformation and disinformation. And Hillary Clinton said you might get prison for spreading misinformation because they're fascists, honestly. And the Supreme Court is accountable based on our incredibly stable and ingenious system. Presidents come in. I hope Trump gets at least one more pick on the Supreme Court in the upcoming 4 years, maybe two, because Jake LaMotta is not going to make it through another 4 years, is she? I don't think so. So he wants to pack the Supreme Court, and they're not held accountable. Here he is threatening. They threaten CEOs, and Democrats show up and shoot and kill CEOs. They threaten the Supreme Court, which Chuck Schumer has done and Joe Biden is doing. A would-be assassin at Brett Kavanaugh's house who was planning on murdering 3 Supreme Court justices, and the Democrats are still threatening the Supreme Court. These people are un-American, they're undemocratic, and they're not on our side, and not very bright either. A bronze plaque for all the law enforcement agencies that attended January 6th. The Democrats want to put up a bronze plaque commemorating the FBI and the Park Police on January 6th, because January 6th, it's kind of remarkable thing. It's all it represents toxic masculinity, the way I say it. It's a group of men, mostly white, who carry guns, and they want to put a plaque up. Did they all shoot Ashley Babbitt and kill Ashley Babbitt without warning while unarmed after serving 12 years in the United States Air Force? Or not? Kind of hard to say for sure. Womp, womp, womp. We have a great many stories to share with you today because today is the last Friday before Inauguration Day. Inauguration Day Monday. So what do we have now? It's someone's telling us, so we got 72, 73, 74 hours. 74 hours. Joe Biden has less than 75 hours left as president of the United States, and that's a good thing, let me say. We got Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then Joe Biden is no longer a president. I speak English. A Tuesday, Thursday. It's ticking out loud. Dr. Jill, I think, is throwing stuff in luggage to steal before they leave.